Well, welcome to MO Forum, and I'm delighted to have Brad Krauskopf with us. Brad has been voted the Young Small Business Ambassador of the Year, and he set up the Hub Australia, and this is really about the future, just as MO Forum is about the future, and I just would like to welcome you to the program, Brad,
very much.
and also to ask you to kick it off. Why did you establish Hub Australia?
Okay, so I guess the real reason with these things, you don't really set out with a big official goal.
Yeah.
I found myself swept away by the Hub when I was living and studying in Madrid, and actually helped a team establish a Hub Madrid.
Right.
And I guess it was more the culture of the Hub that got me there. A new way of working. I've always been in small business, and one of the things that was always hard with small business is that each day was the same.
Yeah.
You're only surrounded by a few different people, whereas though when you come into the Hub every day, it's a new day. You're surrounded by different people doing different things. One of our key things with the Hub is having a real diversity of different members and businesses. So every day I could be surrounded by people from 20 other industry disciplines and from all different ages and all different
So you get that cross-fertilisation of ideas and experiences.
You do. You get the cross-pollination.
Yeah.
There's constant chances for serendipity, and also you're just constantly motivated.
We're in favour of serendipity.
We like it.
Serendipity it gets the big thumbs up. But how much of it is physical, Brad, and how much is virtual?
Look, so technology's enabled us to be able to communicate in many new different ways. But when it comes down to how we do business, it's always got a lot to do with trust. And there's still no better way to build that trust up than through a shared learning experience, or working on something together, or even just a social experience. So it's almost like the hubs are a physical social network.
Yes.
One of the things that we have found with the Hub, on any given day at Hub Melbourne, Sydney or Adelaide, more of our members are not at the Hub. So when we've been setting up the Hub, we've really recognised the importance there that it's both the physical, but then also complementing that with all of these online virtual networks.
So do you need the initial contact and some ongoing contact to be physical, because otherwise you are just dealing with people you've not met? Is that right?
Yeah, and I guess there's this interesting statistic that came out of Deloitte a little bit ago where, with all the technology that we've got these days, why is it that business air travel just keeps on increasing?
Yeah.
And ultimately we've now just got so many more connections that we have in our networks, and so in order to better foster and cultivate those connections, we still need to meet face to face.
It's a bit of an irony, isn't it?
It is.
With the online world, we're actually travelling more because the size of their network is expanding all the time.
Spot on.
In fact, there's a book that I think was written before the internet, and it's called The Global Brain, and it compares the internet with the human brain, that we human beings are trying to build another one which is global, with all the synapses being the sorts of people that you're talking about, and the downloading of information, and people with all these different ideas contributing to a great body of knowledge. So that's pretty interesting.
It is.
Yeah, I was talking to this neuroscientist, and he said, yes, but Craig, the human brain's been developing for millions of years, and it is far more sophisticated than any of these technologies still.
Well, the internet in 40 million years.
Yeah, that's right. Could be anything. It could be anything. So typically, Brad, how many people would be physically together in the hub in Melbourne?
So I guess at the moment, the hub in Melbourne's about 600 metres squared.
Right.
We normally go on about a chair for every 4 or 5 metres.
Uh-huh.
So at any one given time in the hub, there's probably about 150 people.
Well, that's a lot, isn't it?
It is a lot. Like there's actually, and we've actually find that when we had significantly smaller spaces, you were kind of missing that critical mass of different people doing different things and I guess an intensity of activity.
Yeah, I see.
So, at the hub, one of the most misunderstood things that 50% of our members don't work from the space. They see hub as a learning community where they come along for all the interaction events. So because we concentrate a lot on that, we create a lot of activity where the reason people come into the hub is not just to sit down with their laptop computer or to have a meeting. There's many other different ways to interact.
And do they break into like bub hubs where they've got their own little groups?
Yeah, that does happen. Humans are still humans. They're pretty tribal, and you do bump in. You do tend to congregate with people that you know. But because of the different learning opportunities, what we have really realised is that whilst a person might be in a certain industry or a certain company, the person is much more than that company and much more than that industry.
And it may not be their company or industry for life either.
And it may also be that, maybe we're not connecting because we both do marketing. Maybe we're connecting because, we're both part of the Hub Run Club or actually the Hub Technology Club.
Right.
That might be the reason that we actually find a way to connect.
So, your proposition, and it sounds like your experience, is that by getting people physically together but using online technology as an enabler, you get a greater number of ideas, more and more imagination and more expression of that imagination.
You do. I guess one of the key things to mention here that we're kind of known for at the Hub is how we host the spaces. So at the Hub we have space hosts and learning curators and community catalysts.
I see.
That's our staff. And these are full-time people where they're not so much there to get you a coffee or do your admin. They're actually there to get you connections. And it's through creating that culture of connection. That's how we really create that culture of collaboration in the Hub.
And so if you've got this sort of technology and organisation, it actually sounds to me a bit like a university in the sense that universities are designed to bring people together. A lot of talk about exclusively online universities, but a bit of an old-fashioned view is that getting people together to argue things out and throw ideas in without feeling intimidated about, that maybe they're a bit out there, a bit wild as an idea, is a good thing. And universities traditionally have done that, but a lot of the best work of universities has been at the coffee shops, and the refectory and so on, even at the bar, where people just have a yak and shoot the breeze. Is that what happens at the Hub?
I guess, the typical example is, the old coffee houses in London. But, I guess, yes, it is old-fashioned, but it's also the new fashion. This is a constant requirement for us to, more than ever, to be, tossing ideas around, constantly iterating on them bit by bit, and, it's often called the slow burn. And when we get those different ideas and different people and different learning, over time, you come up with more innovation on the other side. And I think that when we look at, Australia and how it can actually be much more productive in the future, I think that there's some elements from co-working and from work hubs that could actually be implemented in suburban and regional Australia.
Yes, I wanted to come to that because we all know about, for example, traffic congestion. We all know that our school system actually was built on a factory system all those years ago, that the timing of kids going to school coincided with the timing of their parents going to do factory shifts. This sort of approach can break that down. Really, maybe the aspiration to have that broken down has been around for 20 years, where people talk about telecommuting. But what you seem to be doing is combining telecommuting with the physical interaction.
Yeah. So I think that there's a huge opportunity that Australia has to actually locate work hubs close to where people live.
Yes, there's no reason for them to be in the central business district,
there really isn't. And you know, we've got a really big country where we're very distributed.
You reckon we could squeeze a few hubs in?
I think we could. I think we could actually squeeze a few hundred of them in so that a work hub actually became part of the local community, where people were able to choose when they worked. They were able to work around their kids. They were able to work around other commitments. You know, besides the congestion side of things, you know, workforce participation is off-cited as, you know, one of the only things that we can really do to remain productive.
Well, there's
keep our budgets and balances.
There's the 3 Ps. There's population, and that's ageing. And then there's participation and productivity. And if we can get more participation through flexible working, then that helps us deal with the challenge of an ageing population.
Absolutely.
I mean, we do want an ageing population because people want to live longer, but it does present challenges.
It does. It does. Yeah. And I guess, you know, with those challenges, there's some opportunities there where I also see that you've got this tremendous amount of knowledge capital in the diversity of people that live in our suburbs.
Yes.
So how we can actually be tapping into that knowledge and then also connecting everybody.
Yeah.
You know, we've got so many people that they're essentially in our, you know, inner or outer suburban areas, and how do we connect all of those pockets up?
It's a brilliant concept.
I think we can have that through a national network of work hubs.
Yeah. So going back to those 2 Ps, participation means that can go up because of the greater flexibility that the hub offers. And as you say, people can work around their children and so on. The other one is productivity. And that's about, in the 21st century, in developed countries in particular, new ideas.
Yep.
And so you're ticking 2 of the 3 Ps, the 2 Ps that are needed to deal with the challenge of the 3rd P, population ageing.
Yep.
What are the parallels or similarities, if any, with the much bigger Silicon Valley in the United States?
Look, yes, there are similarities in that, you know, Silicon Valley, I guess, is a concentration of...
It brings people together.
Of entrepreneurial culture and capital and creativity
as well.
And creativity, you know, and it all comes together in Silicon Valley. I guess one of the things that I often talk about is that I don't think Australia should necessarily be thinking, we need to create a Silicon Valley.
No, I agree with that.
You know, for people who have lived in Silicon Valley and spent some time there, you know, there's a very unique set of factors and culture and everything that goes into that place. What I really think we need to be figuring out is, you know, what is Australia's specialty? You know, what's our particular flavour going to be? And you know, we were doing a presentation last night at ANU, and you know, talking about you know, high value service industries and you know, how we could be looking at resources, agriculture, health, tourism.
Right up my alley.
You
this is what I've been arguing about.
Things that we really do have a claim to. Actually, we're really good at that.
We're good at them, but we're not a low-wage country, and we shouldn't seek to compete by cutting our wages. If we can lift our knowledge and our skills and our imagination, that gives us the competitive advantage rather than wage costs.
Exactly.
And I think that's very much the future of thinking, particularly on the progressive side of thinking. The solution is not always to cut wages. You know, you can be more imaginative than, I've got a great idea, let's cut wages.
And you know, if we want to be saying that we're ultimately a country that can differentiate ourselves and be effective by through providing high value services to the world, then what then is the most important asset? It's our talent.
That's right.
And currently our talent is working in a very distributed fashion.
Exactly,
Even
yeah.
our big cities of Melbourne and Sydney, which are granted big cities, but we've still spread the 4 to 5 million people over a greater geographical area than almost any other cities do.
That's right.
Anywhere in the
I
world.
think we're the most highly urbanised in the world and we've got a continent to ourselves, but everyone wants to be near the water, near the beach.
We also grew when the car was already in existence. So,
Yeah.
we had these cars and we had the ability to sprawl. And
to
so
sprawl
we did.
and then reconnect, yeah.
And so, how we actually reconnect the talent and create an innovative culture there, that's how I think that we're going to be able to offer those high-value services.
In some other models, there's been a physical co-location of people who are imaginative with businesses and universities. So it's big, you see. And I think what you're on about is small can be beautiful, in that you don't have to have a university campus right next door, or 3 or 4 really big businesses.
Look, there's a bit of it's a yes and. One of the things that we have started to see is that, the emergence of specialised spaces, most often the technology-based or the creative-based work hub.
Yeah.
Hub's always been on the diversity tip. But, in countries like the Netherlands, we're also starting to see clustering, where, you'll specify an actual industry and many different work hubs will open up in a certain geographical area.
Yeah.
I think that there is an opportunity here where we could be looking at, we've got Australia as a country. How do we set up these things for maximum productivity and maximum bang?
So could you have, for example, and I'm thinking into the future, an agribusiness hub or a tourism hub and so on, and
absolutely.
then have them specialise.
And I'd love the idea that the agribusiness sat next to the tourism, sat next to the resources. That to me would be,
and then you get
would be great. You get the
interaction. Yeah. Well, look, it's been fascinating talking with you. I know you've got more work to do. Thanks for coming to the beautiful,
such a great location.
Yeah, I thought we'd go wild and get out with the ducks and the geese and well, actually, there are not many geese here, but there are swans.
No, it's a good start to the day.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's been a great pleasure having you on MO Forum. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Both parties, I think, ought to be consumers' parties. But too often, I think you see the Conservatives siding with businesses.